Morning guys, so this is the next of your videos for this week. This is for the Tuesday lesson. So if you haven't already done the Monday lesson or you haven't watched the video, please go back and make sure you've done that first. So today we're going to be focusing on equations for a line. Specifically, we're going to be looking at lines which are parallel to the x or the y axes. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, we will be doing lines which are not parallel. So the first thing I want you to do is you're going to look at these two Cartesian planes. And I want you to look at the blue line and the red line and just think about what you notice about those lines. Pause the video, have a think. Okay, so if you have a look at the blue line specifically, what you'll notice is that it goes across, and for everything else, it's different. But for one thing, it is the same, and that is that here, along this line, the value of the y is the same. And hopefully, even though it's covered by pen, you'll be able to see that the value of the y here is 3. So y is 3. That's also the same here. Next on the red line, you would have had a look at that as well. And you'll have noticed, hopefully, that everything else changes on that line except for one thing. And that is that wherever you are on that line, x is worth 3. It's the same here and here and here. So wherever you are on that line, x is worth 3. Okay, so now let's have another look at the next thing. So next thing I'd like to do is look on these lines. Now I'm going to give you a coordinate. I want you to try and work out whether you think that coordinate will feature on either the blue line or the red line. So the blue one I want to check is, will the coordinate 2, 5 be on that line? And for the red one, I want to check whether the coordinate 2, 2 will be on that line. Pause the video and have a look. Okay, so if we have a look at the blue line first, 2, 5, well, 2, 5 is here. So we know that that does not appear on the line. And on the red line, 2, 2 is here, and that also does not appear on the line. You should be able, without even having to put your finger onto the Cartesian plane, you should start to notice that there is a pattern and how you know whether it will feature. And that is that on the blue line, if it doesn't have a y coordinate, that's this number here, if that one is not 3, it will not feature on that line. And on the red line, we know that it won't feature unless this number here is a 3. So let me give you another question very quickly just to test your knowledge. Can you decide whether the coordinate 7, even though we can't see it, 7, 3, will that be on that line? And on the red line, let's go for the coordinate 360. Can you decide whether that would be on the line, even though those lines don't, they will go on forever and ever and ever. So even if those numbers are too big for the Cartesian plane, you can see they might still be on that line. Pause the video and decide what you think. All right, so if we go back to the blue one, 7, 3, well, we know that y, that value there is 3, which means that yes, this will appear on that line. And the coordinate 360, well, for 3, sorry, that is the right coordinate. So we know that 360 would also appear on this line eventually. And also for these lines, we can start to name it. I'm sure that lots of you already know how to do this, but we can just name them now. So this line is the line y equals 3, which I'm sure you knew. And this line is the line x equals 3. Now I know there is a slight bit of confusion here, and that's because the y-axis on the blue line, the y-axis is actually this line here. So it's going in an opposite direction. It's going at right angles to the line, but the value of y is 3 along the whole length of this line here. And along this line, the value of x is 3 across the whole length of the line. And that is why that is the line y equals 3, and that is the line x equals 3. So now what I'm going to do is you're going to pause the video and I want to write down 2 other coordinates that are on this blue line and 2 coordinates which are on the red line. Off you go. Okay, so if this was in a CE paper or in a test, what the mark scheme would say on the blue line would be that it doesn't matter what is put as the first part of your coordinate, as long as the second part of the coordinate has a 3. So for you to know whether you've got the right answer, as long as you have got any number and then 3, your answer is correct. On the red line, here, it doesn't matter what you've put, as long as the first part of your coordinate is 3, the second part could be anything from on here, the ones you can see, you could have 3 minus 5 minus 4 minus 3 minus 2 minus 1. As long as 3 is that first part of the coordinate, then it's correct. Okay, so now what I want you to do is to pause the video and decide what is the equation of the blue line and what is the equation of the red line. We have changed their position. Off you go. Okay, so if you have a look, this blue line here, where it is, it's at the same place on the y-axis the whole way along, and that is y equals 1. And so we would call that line y equals 1. For the red line, that has the same x-axis for the whole of its length, and that is x equals minus 2 or negative 2. Okay, do that again for these 2 lines, please. The blue line there is slightly above where it should be, but it was just to give you a clue as to what the number would be. So write down the equation of the blue line and the equation of the red line. Pause the video, off you go. Okay, so this is the line y equals 5, and this is the line of x equals negative 4 or minus 4. Now, the last part of this particular lesson is about intersections. So an intersection simply means a crossing, and we're looking for where those 2 lines meet, and we're going to write down the coordinates for where those 2 lines meet. Can you just pause the video and write down what are the coordinates of the intersections on both of those 2 Cartesian planes? Okay, so if we're looking at this first one here, the first grid, this one here, then this point here, this coordinate here is going to be 2, 1. And for this one, the intersection here is going to be at negative 3, 3. Okay, and that is how you find the intersections. Now, there might be some questions on the task where you don't have the lines drawn for you. Some of this you will need to draw into your book. What I suggest you do is if you draw it in pencil, you could take photos as you go along and you could rub out the lines. But I think if you're writing in your book, you ought to have a coordinate grid, a Cartesian plane for each one of your answers. Okay, have a go at the task and pop into the live sessions if you get stuck.